A man walks onto a stage. He trips, he falls, we all laugh. But why? Why do we find pleasure in someone else's pain? Or let me put it this way. Is what makes you laugh actually a short circuit firing in your brain? Philosophers have wrestled with this question for millennia. Thomas Hobbes called it the superiority theory, that sudden flush of victory we feel over someone else's blunder. Freud called it relief, the liberation of repressed energy, specifically our sexual and aggressive impulses. But perhaps the most intriguing definition comes from the modern philosopher Alenka Zupančič. For her, comedy is the aesthetic form of nothingness. Picture this. A man walks into a restaurant and orders, "I'd like a coffee without cream, please." The waiter replies, "I'm sorry, sir, we're out of cream. Would you settle for a coffee without milk?" That is comedy. The precise moment logic fractures and expectation collapses. As Georges Bataille put it, the point where the known turns into the unknown. Today, we aren't just here to laugh. We are embarking on a journey from history's oldest recorded jokes to modern cancel culture, from the phallic statues of ancient Greece to the battlegrounds of offensive stand-up. By the end, you'll realize comedy is humanity's most serious invention. The origins of comedy didn't begin in noble theater halls as you might expect. They were born in the mud, the wine, and the chaos. The word itself is a fusion of komos, meaning a drunken revel, and ode, meaning song. Together they form komodia. Rewind to the 6th century BC. During the grape harvest in Athenian villages, people organized processions called Phallophoroi in honor of Dionysus, the god of wine. Yes, you heard that right. People marched carrying giant phallic symbols, belting out obscene songs, and hurling insults at one another. But the goal wasn't just to party. It was to ward off evil spirits and celebrate fertility. Over time, these raw rituals evolved into organized festivals, the Great Dionysia. And onto this stage stepped a man we can call the father of comedy, Aristophanes. He was the ancestor of today's political satirists. This genre, known as old comedy, was uncensored and absolutely ruthless. In his play The Clouds, he depicted the great philosopher Socrates as a charlatan hanging in a basket, busy measuring how far a flea could jump. Or in Lysistrata, he told the story of women going on a sex strike to force an end to war. In Aristophanes' plays, there was a section called the parabasis. The chorus would remove their masks and speak directly to the audience, sometimes even roasting the politicians sitting right in the front row. This was the extreme edge of democratic freedom of speech, what the Greeks called parrhesia. With the fall of Athens, that sharp-tongued political comedy died a quiet death. Enter new comedy and its master, Menander. The spotlight shifted from politics to domestic affairs, love, money, and family. In other words, the foundations of the modern sitcom were being laid right there. The Romans inherited this legacy, but they roughed it up a bit. Plautus traded witty wordplay for what we now call slapstick, physical, crude humor. In Plautus's world, slaves were smarter than their masters. The cunning slave, the miserly father, the bragging soldier. Do these characters sound familiar? That's because we've been laughing at these exact same archetypes for 2,000 years. When Rome collapsed, Europe plunged into the Dark Ages. Under the heavy hand of the church, laughter wasn't banned, but it was quarantined inside the carnival. As Mikhail Bakhtin analyzed, the medieval person lived two lives, one official life filled with fear, and a second carnival life, where hierarchy was turned upside down. During the Feast of Fools, a peasant would be crowned king, and the sacred was openly mocked. Laughter became the ultimate revenge against authority. With the Renaissance, Commedia dell'arte was born in Italy. No scripts, just pure improvisation. Actors relied on lazy, rehearsed physical gags inserted into the act. A classic example, Arlecchino trying to eat his own shoe out of sheer hunger. Centuries flashed by, and the Industrial Revolution moved comedy from the stage to the silver screen. The silent era shattered the language barrier. Charlie Chaplin, with his tramp character, infused comedy with pathos. He had the unique power to make you weep while you laughed. On the other hand, there was Buster Keaton, the great stone face. No matter the chaos crumbling around him, he never broke character. He didn't just perform comedy, he engineered it. According to Gilles Deleuze, Chaplin transformed human movement into an aesthetic form. In modern times, while critiquing the mechanization and alienation of the working class, he was actually confronting a social crisis through the lens of humor. Radio and television invited comedy right into our living rooms, but the real revolution arrived in the 1950s with the birth of stand-up. Lenny Bruce took the stage, but he didn't just tell jokes. He spoke about racism, religion, and sex. For that honesty, he was arrested time and time again. Today, we face comedy's biggest battleground. Is this joke offensive? Studies show that a joke lands as offensive primarily when the audience reads the comedian's intent as malicious or hateful. Take George Carlin. When he unleashed his brutal critiques on religion, some saw only ignorant rage and took offense, while others saw a spark of genius, a moment that, to quote Bataille again, turned the known into the unknown, and laughed. In our current era, the internet has fractured comedy through post-irony and meme culture. These memes, what Richard Dawkins defined as cultural genes, make us laugh through the sheer incongruity between image and text. Meaningless, absurd, rapid fire, just like modern life itself. From Aristophanes screaming at warmongers in the squares of Athens to the modern comedian destroyed by a single tweet, only the medium has changed. The essence remains the same. To laugh is the only way to conquer fear, to confront authority, and to alleviate that unbearable weight of being human. As Zupančič put it, comedy is not the metaphysics of the finite, but the physics of the infinite. It is the ability to look at life's flaws and say, so be it. It's funny anyway. Thanks for watching. If you want us to keep unearthing these dusty pages of history, don't forget to like and subscribe. Until our next retro deep dive, take care.